You are about to enter the world of urban legends, where fact is often stranger than fiction. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between truth and urban legend. You are now entering the world of urban legends, where you'll see 3 stories. 2 of them are myths, but one story is true. Can you tell which is which? Is it the one about a painting, thought to be worthless, saved from disaster, only to turn out to be a masterpiece? Or could it be the dinner guests who think they've been poisoned when the family pet dies after eating the same food? Or is it the tale of a husband who tries to save his marriage by staging his own death, but ends up killing his neighbor instead? 3 bizarre and twisted tales. 2 are urban legends, but one is a true story that really happened. Can you tell fact from fiction? Watch all 3 stories, make your choice, and we'll tell you the truth at the end of the show. First up, from misfortune to fortune. California, home of sun, sea, and surf. But in 2005, torrential rains caused widespread flooding and devastating landslides, sending homes crashing down a hillside and destroying an oceanside community. One man who was home at the time picks up the story. Meet Al Trevino.
I had gone to the office in my home, sent a few emails, and then sat down to read the paper, and the house started to squeak. Earth just opened up. All of these houses in front of me were just sliding down the hill. The road was buckling, and all of the soil below us was gone.
Al's house isn't destroyed, but it's left teetering on the edge of a cliff. The damage is estimated in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, money Al doesn't have. Worse still, his insurance doesn't cover damages caused by landslides. He's now homeless and penniless. The police allow a family member back into the doomed house one last time to recover any possessions that can be safely carried out. That job falls to Al's son. Meet Lawrence Trevino.
Well, once in the house, we had limited time, so I went around grabbing anything that had value.
Due to the instability of the structure, Lawrence is only able to grab items from the side of the house that isn't leaning over the edge of the cliff. He is about to leave when he spots a familiar painting, not hanging on the wall, but sitting propped against it. He takes it.
A month prior, we had a very large party at the house for our 50th wedding anniversary. And I was going to show some slides of over the past 50 years on the wall. And so I took one of the large oil paintings down so I could use the wall.
Taking down that painting set in motion a series of events that turned Al Trevino's luck completely around. The painting in question was purchased for $20 at a yard sale several years earlier. It, along with a few other rescued belongings, is stored for safekeeping by a neighbor. Meet Pam Hagen, who just happens to be an art enthusiast. She recognizes the painting not as a $20 yard sale item, but something remarkable.
I looked it over, and I looked at the back, and I looked at the signature again, and on the back was written Kleitsch on the frame.
Kleitsch was a celebrated painter who lived in Laguna Beach in the 1920s. His paintings are highly collectible today, sometimes fetching hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So I know him. I know his work.
Al Trevino unknowingly sits on a garage sale gold mine, but it would need an expert to confirm it. Pam suggests that Al get the painting appraised by a local gallery owner and collector.
Redfern Gallery, Ray speaking.
Meet Ray Redfern.
Well, it was interesting driving up to Pam's house. Pam actually met me down by the police, and we got through the barricade and drove up the back way to her house. So I walked inside and saw the painting and went, wow, nice painting. Well, I was thrilled to see it. Recognized it as a Joseph Kleitsch immediately when I saw that it was real and from the period.
As it turns out, the painting is appraised at about $500,000. So what are the chances of this chain of coincidences happening? An undiscovered masterpiece bought for $20 at a yard sale? One of the only items rescued from a devastating landslide? It's left with a neighbor who happens to be an art expert and recognizes it for what it is? Did this really happen? Well, you don't have to be an art expert to try to figure out if this story is authentic or a forgery. We'll tell you if you're right at the end of the show. While you think about that, try to solve this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 417. Trouble at the toilet. Wendy Pitcher poured a bottle of cheap perfume into the toilet. The stuff was 97% pure alcohol. Not long after, her husband Gavin flicked his lit cigarette butt into the bowl. The highly flammable liquid exploded under him. When the paramedics arrived, Gavin explained what had happened, and they laughed so hard they dropped him off the stretcher, breaking his collarbone. So, is this toilet tale true or false? Did a lit cigarette cause an explosion when it touched cheap, highly flammable perfume? No, it's false. A variation of this tale came to light in 1953, and it keeps being reported as truth as recently as 2004. On Urban Legends, we present 3 stories to you. 2 of them are myths, while one, as unlikely as it may seem, really happened. Your mission is to decide which one is true. We've shown you the story of the $20 picture that turns out to be worth so much more. And now it's time to tell you about a dinner party that goes horribly wrong, when the guests believe they've been poisoned. We'll tell you if it's true at the end of the show. Surrey, England, September 2002. Life for some people in this leafy, serene county is about to take an unusual, fateful twist. Meet well-respected couple about town, Helena and Rory DeVoe.
Well, I'd been preparing all day a dinner party. My husband, Rory, he'd invited his boss.
Well, Helena had got it into her head that it would be a good idea to invite George along, as it may help my promotional prospects within the company.
The caterers descend on Helena's kitchen with all the raw ingredients needed to prepare a gourmet meal.
They would come to your house and prepare it there, rather than just turn up pre-cooked and heat the stuff up.
It seemed like an excellent idea, really. I'd get the caterers in, and the menu looked actually quite appetizing.
Meanwhile, Rory busies himself with some do-it-yourself car maintenance. It turns out to be really poor judgment and bad timing. He is about to mix something in the kitchen blender that is a pure recipe for disaster. A special concoction of coolant for his car's radiator.
See, the trouble is you can't just pour them into the tank together, because one sort of lays on top of the other, a bit like oil and water. So you have to, basically it's all in the blending.
Helena DeVoe, not impressed with her husband's timing, kicks him out of the crowded kitchen. But she's made a terrible mistake. She's left a liquid time bomb on the counter. Food preparation continues, and when Helena returns from getting her hair done for the occasion, no one notices the family cat helping itself to one of the specially prepared dishes, the salmon mousse. Helena quickly puts the cat outside, but it's too late. It has already eaten a portion of the dish. Determined not to let spoiled moose spoil the evening, she simply smooths off the bite marks and puts the moose back on the menu. And as the guests sit down to dinner, no one suspects anything's wrong.
Oh, well, the meal was going along swimmingly.
Very well, actually.
At the same time the guests are tucking into dessert, the housekeeper makes a gruesome discovery on the lawn. The family cat is dead.
Well, my first thought was, oh my God, it's the salmon moose.
And then that's when the penny dropped. The mixer.
The remote possibility that the remains of the antifreeze made its way into the salmon mousse via the blender became a distinct possibility. Even small quantities of the liquid can be lethal. Meet toxicologist Dr. Miria Glass.
Antifreeze contains ethylene glycol, which when metabolized by the liver produces toxic products such as aldehydes and glycolates. When these toxins accumulate, the liver shuts down, which can lead to multi-organ failure. Heart failure, respiratory failure, kidney failure is fatal to humans.
The DeVoes have no choice but to tell their guests they've just been poisoned by the lethal salmon mousse. An embarrassing acknowledgement quickly turns into a medical emergency, and the next destination is the closest possible hospital. Each guest undergoes a gastric lavage. Their stomachs are pumped to rid themselves of the poison. Meanwhile, in the hospital lab, the salmon mousse is tested, but no trace of poisonous antifreeze is found. A medical mystery unfolds. If the salmon mousse didn't kill the cat, what did? The awful truth soon comes out.
After we'd returned from the hospital, one of our neighbours came and said that it wasn't the salmon mousse at all.
Their neighbor had laid out rat poison in their garage, and she saw the cat staggering out of there that afternoon. The mystery mousse puzzle is solved. Crisis averted. No one has been poisoned, but Rory is angry with his neighbor.
The thing that really annoyed me was she didn't want to come in and tell us straight away because she could see we were having so much fun and thought she'd leave it till later.
Helena blames the unfortunate series of events for Rory's stall on climbing the corporate ladder.
To this day, I swear it was the whole stomach pumping incident that cost Rory a promotion.
Absolutely.
So, could this have happened? Could a strange set of circumstances come together at the right moment to create a medical emergency? Is it true? Don't decide just yet. We have one more story to come on Urban Legends. Now from moose to mouse. Try to solve this instant puzzle. Mini myth number 89. Mouse versus house. Luciano Mares of Fort Sumner, New Mexico, caught a mouse in his house. He cruelly decided to throw it on a fire he had burning in his backyard, alive. His cruel intentions were repaid when the burning mouse, still alive, ran up his garden path into an open window and along the curtain. The fire spread rapidly and burnt the house right down. But is that story true or false? It's true. This story spread like wildfire in 2006 when it really happened. The city's mayor and a firefighter confirmed the story. We have 3 stories for you in Urban Legends. You have to decide which one of them is true. Is it the story of the $20 painting that was a stroke of genius worth $500,000? Or is it the story of the mistaken poison moose served at a lavish dinner party? Don't decide until you've seen our 3rd story, the fake hanging.
Oh, I loved it.
Marriages are never easy. There are bound to be ups and downs, good times and bad. But if you can make it through the tough spots, whatever they may be, then you've got a chance of going the distance. This happy couple have had their share of marital strife, including one time in June 2002, when it appeared the marriage was over. Drastic measures, however, were needed to help them hang on. Meet magician Jake Fenn and his wife Ursabet from Debrecen, Hungary.
Well, for a while there, she was crazy, always nagging. Nothing I did was right. Everything wrong. Nag, all the time. Silly little things. If I forget to mow the lawn, or if I not put the cutlery in the right place.
That's the minimum you could do.
She was driving me crazy. It was very hard because I wanted to be with her, but I just couldn't put up with it.
Jake loves his wife, but he's at the end of his rope. Instead of getting help, though, he hatches his own plan.
You anymore.
I needed to do something that would scare her, frighten her, make her realize that it was not working. It sounds so stupid now, but I decided that I would hang myself.
Meet Gladina McMahon, relationship expert. She's seen it all before.
It might sound a completely crazy thing to say, but when you don't know what else to do, you often do crazy things.
Jake's plan isn't a suicide bid. As a magician, Jake has a few tricks up his sleeve. The fake hanging would merely be a ruse to shock Ursabet into thinking about her life empty without Jake.
Shock tactics can work, but I really wouldn't advise them because there's a 50-50 chance they'll backfire, and when they do backfire, they backfire badly.
While Ursabet is out, Jake and his best friend Janos hurry to get the stunt in place. But the noise attracts the unwelcome attention of Jake's meddling and nosy neighbor, Judith Barani.
Yes, can I help you?
You make the noise. I will complain to police.
Go ahead.
Janos quickly dismisses Judith and returns to help Jake with the rig, which now looks terrifyingly convincing. The stage is set, and Janos leaves Jake for his starring moment. Ursabet returns home, but her reaction is not the one Jake is hoping for.
I was shocked, and I screamed and I passed out. It was the shock of my life. I thought he was dead. I thought the man I loved was dead.
Oh.
Jake didn't think Ursabet would faint. Now he's stuck.
I can't get down. I am stuck, hanging, and Ursabet is laying on the floor, and there's nothing that I can do.
All Jake can do is wait for Ursabet to come around and then try to explain himself. But Judith Barani, sensing something wasn't right, comes back to the house, but this time she enters. His suspicions roused, Jake keeps quiet and soon realizes his neighbor is up to no good.
She sees Ursabet on the floor, and I'm hanging there, and I say nothing. And she step over Ursabet, and she pick up Ursabet's purse, and she took money. And I'm thinking, what is she doing? She is stealing from us.
Jake is thinking of retaliation, so he decides to play a trick. But just like his wife before, the reaction is not one he anticipates.
I kick her square in the buttocks. And she screams, and she clasps her chest, and then she falls on the floor.
Unlike Ursabet, she isn't going to get up again.
I awoke and I saw him that he was alive, and I was very happy. My heart was filled with joy. I told him it was the worst idea he could have had. And then I saw Judith.
Judith is lying on the floor dead. They have no choice but to inform the police. Jake is taken to the station for questioning, but he is let off the hook.
It was death by misadventure. And they say, not my fault. And they say I can go.
It might have ended in tragedy for Mrs. Barani, but for Jake and Ursabet, it was the beginning of a new life together.
Now I see that I was crazy. I gave him a hard time for no reason. Oh, it's like we were married all over again.
Now reconciled and very much in love, Jake felt the stunt was worth it, but he would never consider doing anything like that again. A smart decision, but are you smart enough to figure out if this story is true or false? Think about it and decide after this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 12, the Baby Express. The town of Amandaw was noted for a birth rate 3 times higher than any other neighboring suburb. A government statistician is sent to investigate, but he can't see any reason for the baby boom. But then, the next morning, he hears it. The Miami Express train passes through town every morning at 6 and sounds its whistle, waking up the whole neighborhood. It is too early to get up and pointless going back to sleep, so the townsfolk evidently spend their time in some quality canoodling. So is that an urban myth? Yes, it is. The tale has been around since the 30s, and it still pops up in various locations around the world. It's time to come clean on which one of the 3 legendary tales is true. Was the story of the antifreeze, the dead cat, the supposedly poisoned salmon mousse, and the stomach-pumped dinner guests true? Well, no. The story of the poisoned pet has been around since the 1940s, and it simply refuses to lie down. Sometimes it's a dog that dies, sometimes it's a cat. Sometimes it's mushrooms that the unfortunate hostess cooks for dinner. Sometimes it's salmon mousse. But no matter how this fishy tale is served up, it's just not true. So what's left? The fake hanging and the $20 painting. If you thought the fake hanging story was true, you'd be completely wrong. The story about the desperate magician is just an illusion. It surfaced in the late 70s, and the details change. The thieving neighbor is a man, but the story is always said to have happened in Hungary. So that leaves Al and his painting that turned out to be worth a great deal more than he knew. The story is true. In May 2005, Al Trevino of Laguna Beach, California really did lose his house in a landslide, and he didn't have insurance coverage. One of the items salvaged is a $20 painting that his neighbor helps determine is worth $500,000.
I mean, the probabilities are, 1 in a million or things like that.
1 in a million. All Al needed was a miracle, or a disaster in this case, to realize it. So, are you now a believer? Did you guess right? Well, if not, you can try again soon on the next episode of Urban Legends.